Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking a moment in time that literally altered the landscape of the Himalayas forever. We're diving into the 2013 Kedarnath Disaster. It's a story of profound human tragedy, breathtaking but highly volatile geography, and honestly the humbling, truly unstoppable power of nature. Let's get into it. June 2013. A normal pilgrimage suddenly turned into India's most horrific tragedy. Thousands of people had traveled to this sacred site simply looking for a spiritual connection. They were completely oblivious to the cataclysm brewing just above their heads. So how does a routine, peaceful journey transform into a desperate fight for survival in just a matter of hours? Section 1. Kedarnath, completely unaware of the danger. To really wrap our heads around how this disaster unfolded, we need to picture the town of Kedarnath before the chaos. It was early June, and the narrow streets were just bursting with life. Shops were busy, mules were ferrying pilgrims up those steep, winding paths, and basically every single hotel and guest house was packed to the brim. It felt like a vibrant, totally normal religious journey. People were focused on their faith, definitely not on the gray clouds gathering above. But here's a critical geographical detail we really have to keep in mind. 3,500. That's the number of meters above sea level where Kedarnath sits. That isn't just some topographical fact. It means extreme isolation. You've got this bustling, crowded town perched at a dizzying altitude, surrounded by these massive, imposing peaks, with a rushing river right below it. And what exactly is the terrain they're standing on? Well, the Himalayas are actually one of the world's youngest mountain ranges. What that means in practical terms is they're inherently fragile. The rocks are constantly shifting, the geography is notoriously unstable, and the whole region is incredibly susceptible to sudden, violent weather changes. So you have this ancient, centuries-old temple that feels permanent, right? But it's sitting smack in the middle of a restless, unpredictable, and highly youthful mountain range. Section 2. The approaching destruction. So in 2013, the monsoon didn't just arrive early. It hit with unprecedented fury. Massive amounts of moisture drawn all the way from both the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea were barreling toward the Himalayas. Let's trace how this built up, because the warning signs were definitely there. On June 14th, the region gets unusually heavy rain, and locals notice the local river swelling. The current is getting really aggressive. By June 15th, the mountain actually starts pushing back. We're talking minor landslides, tumbling rocks, and blocked paths. But the pilgrimage didn't stop. Thousands of people just kept moving upward. Then, by the evening of the 16th, things rapidly deteriorate. Power cuts plunge the entire town into total darkness, eerie echoes are bouncing off the mountains, and a creeping sense of dread finally sets in. Yet, most people just hunkered down, hoping for clear skies by morning. But they couldn't see what was happening higher up in the dark. Hidden high behind the temple was a glacial lake, and while the folks down below were just trying to stay dry from the endless rain, this unseen lake was secretly swelling. Just immense volumes of torrential rainwater and rapidly melting snow were filling it way past its breaking point. It's this terrifying, dramatic irony, a literal catastrophic weapon of water building up directly above thousands of unsuspecting people. Section 3. That terrifying morning. This was the morning the tension finally snapped. The mountain gave way, and the absolute unthinkable became reality. June 17th, 4 a.m., the breaking point. Most pilgrims were asleep or just waking up in the pitch dark to get ready for morning prayers. And then, the glacial lake above shattered. Suddenly, people felt the ground violently shaking beneath their feet, a massive, unstoppable wall of water. Heavy boulders, mud, and uprooted trees tore down the mountain at terrifying speeds, ripping right into the heart of the town before anyone could even process what was happening. Survivors later described the horror with chilling clarity, saying it felt as if a massive force suddenly shattered the silence of the mountains. I mean, imagine the profound terror of that exact moment. For the locals who had lived in these mountains their entire lives, they knew a deafening roar of that magnitude meant one thing: inescapable doom. The sheer sensory horror of the earth basically tearing itself apart in the pitch dark, it's just unimaginable. Yet, right in the middle of all this devastation, there was a moment of pure astonishment. The story of the miracle boulder. Shortly after that first strike, an even larger, second wave of debris came crashing down with a roar that drowned out everything else. But a colossal rock, carried by the very floodwaters destroying the town, somehow wedged itself directly behind the Kedarnath temple. This single massive boulder basically split the deadly flow of water and debris right down the middle, diverting it around the structure and miraculously saving this centuries-old temple from total obliteration. So the temple stood, but almost everything else around it was swept away. The contrast is utterly heartbreaking. On June 16th, Kedarnath was this vibrant, bustling spiritual market filled with hopeful pilgrims and echoing bells. Fast forward just a few hours to the morning of the 17th, and it was an unrecognizable graveyard. Flattened buildings, a literal sea of mud and colossal boulders, and the deafening cries for help as survivors desperately dug through the rubble with their bare hands, just searching for their loved ones. Section 4. The greatest rescue in history. What followed was a shift from immediate survival to one of the most complex rescue operations ever mounted. The immediate aftermath was defined by absolute, complete isolation. The survivors who actually managed to escape the floodwaters were now completely cut off from the rest of the world. They didn't even know if anyone knew they were up there. They had absolutely zero food supplies, they lacked warm clothing to survive the freezing high-altitude temperatures, there was no medical aid for the severely injured. Every single road and bridge leading down the mountain had been washed away, and all communication networks had completely failed. For days, neither the stranded survivors up there nor the authorities down below could fully grasp the massive scale of this disaster. But when the news finally broke, a monumental, truly heroic effort kicked off. First, the Indian Air Force and Army deployed helicopters, flying in insanely perilous weather with practically zero visibility. Second, ITBP and NDRF troops literally marched on foot through destroyed, debris-filled, unstable paths for kilometers just to reach the site. And third, rescue teams set up temporary rope routes, manually carrying stranded people across raging rivers to safety. Seasoned rescue workers later said they had never witnessed such total destruction in their entire lifetimes. The timeline of this rescue is incredibly inspiring, but also deeply tragic. By June 18th, the first helicopters managed to spot survivors, bringing this vital glimmer of hope. In the days following, relentless air and ground evacuations saved thousands upon thousands of lives. But this mission came at a devastating cost. On June 25th, an IAF helicopter tragically crashed in those treacherous conditions. We really have to pause and pay deep respect to those brave personnel who laid down their own lives so that others could survive that nightmare. Section 5. Nature's Lesson. As the rescue operations eventually wrapped up and the physical dust settled, the nation was left to grapple with the aftermath. This wasn't just a disaster. It was nature's lesson. It forced a profound and completely necessary reflection on how we interact with the mighty Himalayas. And from the depths of this tragedy, some really vital, life-saving changes were made. Stricter safety protocols were finally implemented. There's now significantly improved structured crowd and travel management to prevent those dangerous bottlenecks of the past. Robust disaster warning systems have been installed across the region, and Kedarnath itself has been gradually rebuilt into a much more organized, resilient town. Today, it welcomes millions of pilgrims once again. But make no mistake, the scars of 2013 remain permanently etched into the mountainsides. They are a harsh reminder of our vulnerability. Which leaves us with a critical, sobering thought to ponder as we wrap up our explainer today. Was unchecked development in the fragile Himalayas a fatal mistake? And looking at the systems we have in place right now, are we truly prepared for nature's next warning? Think about that delicate balance between our human ambitions and the undeniable, absolutely unstoppable power of the natural world. Thank you so much for joining me today to uncover the story behind the facts. Keep questioning and keep learning.